Okay, let's get it. Episode 2. It's been a couple of days, but we're going to try to get an idea started in this episode. Let's listen to the drum loop that we made last episode real quickly and decide if we want to make any edits before moving on. Okay, so I have a notebook right here. It's always good to kind of write notes at the beginning of a session. It'll help you get the juices flowing and get a good workflow going. So first I want a new kick. I want to layer my snares. And I think the perk loop is too clicky. So let's go ahead and fix all those things real quick and then move on. So for the kick, let's replace it with, let's try that guy instead. Here's a good trick. So if we want to replace all of our audio drums, we could click on the sample, go down here to the little editor. So say you have all these, we'll go ahead, manage sample file, replace it, and then if we look up kick, we could find a kick that we like. You know, I'm just gonna go with, and this is something I think is important, just pick samples that you know you like. Don't be afraid to reuse samples. So I always use this BHD kick. So now we just want to get rid of all these little clicks from the old samples. Okay, cool. So we have a better kick now. And then I want to layer the snares. And what I mean by that is I want each snare to be slightly different. And the way we can do that is by layering each snare with different claps. So let's go ahead and find some claps that we like. So now each snare is a little bit different. Okay, so we fixed the snare, we fixed the kick, and I think the perk loop is too clicky, so let's fix that. The way you can make something less clicky is by taking a transient shaper. I like the kilohertz one. And we could just use it in the opposite way we would use a transient shaper usually. So usually we would pump up this attack to make the transient more aggressive, but we can bring it down. And as you can see, it kind of softens those clicks. Right there is probably good. Cool. Okay, so I think that's good for the drums. Let's move on and start getting an idea going. So I'm gonna make a new group and call this basses. And I think a good tip with this is we can let this perk loop guide our bass idea, if that makes sense. So I think it's really good to take things that are already existing within your session and let them kind of guide your idea. This doesn't only help workflow, but this also helps your song with staying cohesive and not sounding like just a bunch of random stuff going on. And with this drum loop, I really like the flow of that perk loop. So maybe we could try to recreate that flow with a bass patch, or at least something similar. So the way I would do that is we'll just go ahead and pick a root note. Let's go with D sharp. It's one of my favorite keys to write in for bass music. We're going to take a serum. So let's first just get a shape going. So I'll apply an LFO to this level. And we'll enable dotted and triplet. And then let's just try to get this rhythm down before we really do any sound designing. So first looks like it's eighth notes. I think this needs to stay 16th note. Yeah, I think that's pretty close. So let's see. And then let's let it finish off with this 16th note rhythm at the end. So now we have a cool rhythm that follows that perk loop. Let's go ahead and make this an interesting sound. So I'm thinking some type of harmonic series bass. I tend to build a lot of my basses with this formula. So we'll go ahead and take a sine wave and then take harmonic series. We'll apply an LFO to the level of this one, and we're going to find a tone that we like here. That sounds pretty cool. So we could try to help get rid of those clicks by turning up the smooth here. Smooth is super underrated. I'd definitely use that setting for those wobbly sounds. And then I really like the add bass filter. So if we apply to the cutoff like this and the resonance like this, could add a little bit of drive too. That should be nice. And then let's try some different distortions. The big thing with bass design is filter movement and distortion type. That's what's really going to add character and create a full sound. So as you can see, each distortion setting is going to sound completely different. So definitely experiment with the types of distortion you use on your basses, because it's going to give you a lot of different tonalities and variations. Ooh, there we go. So we're getting there. We're starting to get a little bit of a danceable idea. This sounds pretty cool in my opinion too. But let's make this bass sound even better. So let's add some white noise to get some high end. We'll just do a very slight amount. And then let's go ahead and do some post-processing in Ableton. So I like to take wide noise and take an envelope follower. And if we apply the envelope follower to the amount on the erosion, we're going to get a cool white noise layer that moves with the volume of our signal. So and then the cool thing is you could pull up this delay to kind of offset it, and it gives it its own space and almost adds this swing to the sound, if you will. Okay, let's add some chorus. This will help give our bass some stereo signal. And we don't want any stereo on our low end, so I'm going to go ahead and low cut the chorus and push this cutoff to about 200. Okay, and then multi-band compression is a nice way to just kind of tie everything together and bring up the volume a bit. It's almost like a clean OTT in my opinion. Okay, before we go further into this bass, let's go ahead and set up our sidechain. So I'm going to group these basses into a whole group. We're going to make this group dark, and we're going to call it SC, and that stands for sidechain. So all of our elements that we want sidechained to our kick and snare are going to go in this group. And then I'm going to create an audio channel at the top. We'll color it white, and we'll call it trig. And that stands for trigger. And this is going to be where we put our sidechain trigger. So what we want to do is take the very beginning of our kick sample. This is at least how I do it. And we'll just crank up the volume. Make sure the trigger channel is turned off. And then we're going to copy this little click on top of each kick and each snare. And then on the sidechain group, I'm going to take the Live 8 compressor. The reason I use the Live 8 compressor is because it's less clicky. It just sounds cleaner for some reason. I don't really know why. But we're going to go ahead and open up the sidechain setting. And we'll select trigger for our source. And now we can see every time our trigger comes through, it's ducking the volume. So then if we just mess with the settings, usually turn the release down a little bit, turn the attack down. Okay, that works. So let's go back to this bass. So let's set up some macros so we can have this move around a little more. I like to macro these little faders so we could have this bass open up. So we kind of change the shape of it as it's playing. So let's mess around with that. I feel like this whole section needs to rise up and decay. Maybe this should go longer? I don't know. getting somewhere. Okay, cool. I think that's a good start for the basses. But obviously we don't want to just playing the same bass patch the whole time. So let's go ahead and start making some variations and see if we could get some downbeats, calls, and responses going. So I'm just going to duplicate the whole patch and let's try to get a downbeat sound for this. So this first hit, I want to try to make it kind of its own sound, so it's a little different from the main wobble. Oh, I think I was messing with the wrong one. Okay, let's open this guy. That's pretty cool. And then I think it could benefit from like a reverb throw. So let's take a reverb, move the filter somewhere around there, turn up the decay, and let's automate the dry wet to do something like this. And then this, we could just automate it so that that first hit is turned off. Okay, it's getting somewhere. Let's make this downbeat a little more interesting. Maybe we could put a pitch envelope on it. So let's go ahead and draw a shape like that with envelope 2. And then we'll go into the matrix, and for envelope 2, we'll map it to the master tune. We'll have it be unipolar, so just the arrow going one way. And then let's put this up 12 semitones. That's pretty cool. Maybe it's too distorted. Yeah, there we go. Okay, let's just work on these first 2 bars first before we end up in a never-ending 4-bar loop. And let's start naming stuff, being organized. So here we have downbeat. Here we have a wobble. So this one, it feels just like a little slightly too off grid maybe. So let's maybe pull this back, make it a little more plucky. And then I think we could use some more kicks maybe. Let's just add more in and see. what we like, but we're cooking now. I think we got a good idea going. Maybe another kick there. So then with this next 2-bar section, I want it to be a variation of what we already have going on. So let's just duplicate the downbeat and duplicate the wobble. And we'll go ahead and try to make some slight variations. So I'm thinking more of a high-pitched version of it over here. So the way we could do that is by messing with the harmonics. There's a click coming from somewhere. I think it's coming from this guy, so let's get rid of these. There's a click coming from somewhere. We'll figure it out later, though. I want to get this idea down first. And then right here needs to be some type of fill so that it doesn't start getting boring. So I really like to just keep duplicating the patches that I already have, and we can just keep making a bunch of variations. That rate needs to stay fast. I'm thinking it needs to be almost like lasery, right? So maybe some weird pitch bendy stuff we could try. So I'm gonna go ahead and change the pitch bend range, and we'll go ahead and automate that pitch wheel. Do something like this. That's kind of cool. And then let's do like a washout or something on this guy. Oh, the click is coming from our drums. I was gonna say, that click is getting annoying. Should be good now. Okay, so let's go ahead and keep moving forward. It's easy to get stuck in these loops. So another good thing to always try to remind yourself is to keep your workflow moving, move around in the project and add things in different areas so that you're not spending 3 hours making your base patches and stuff. So I'm going to make a new group and call it effects. And we're going to add some effects in here to help emphasize our main idea and help carry us from section to section. So one of the main things I like to always do is we'll just take a glass hit. We'll put some glass on our downbeat. And then we're going to want a riser. So a cool way to make a riser is we could just take basically any sample. Let's actually take our main bass. I'm going to freeze this. And I'm going to drag it down here. So now we have audio of it. And we could just stretch this a bunch. Just stretch it until Ableton won't let you stretch it anymore. Consolidate it. Stretch it again. And we could put it on like texture mode. Yeah, so something like that. And let's go ahead and consolidate it. But basically what we're trying to do here is just stretch the sample until we have some like basically obnoxious noise. And then we could put an upwards pitch bend on it to turn it into a riser. And look at that, we got a riser. So if I freeze this and flatten it, now we have a cool little riser that is not just dragged and dropped from some random sample pack. It's created from within our project, so it'll have some cohesiveness, it'll have some uniqueness to it. And then we could go ahead and take some risers that are already made, and just to make them a little more unique, you could just double them or half time them and just mess with the audio warp settings in Ableton. You could get a lot of cool variations. That way you're not just dragging and dropping samples, which can feel kind of cheap and easy sometimes. Okay, and then the next thing I would like to add is some vox and some scratches. Let's find a cool scratch sample. I really like the ones from from Slink on YouTube. He's got some really cool ones. Hell yeah, let's use that one. It's a classic. So as we can see, the scratch sample is at 110 BPM. So let's make sure our warp setting is set to 110 BPM. So now it will fit the speed of our track. And then let's listen through real quick and kind of think of where we would want little scratch fills. So I think like right here would be a good one. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. And then let's put like a vocal rack on it, maybe. just made this vocal rack the other day. It'll be on Patreon soon. And then in this last section is where we're going to want like some type of vocal acapella. Screw it, let's try to record our own. Real quick, I'm going to record our own little vocal. What could be a good fill? Or actually, nah, that's stupid. We already have a theme going with this scratch, so let's use the I Got the Power vocal. Yeah. Okay, I think that's pretty good for episode 2. Getting an idea going, doing some bass sound design. I'm gonna go ahead and take a quick break, and then we'll come back and keep this idea moving.